Hey there, knife people. It's Pocket Knife Collector. I've got another unboxing video for you today. This is a package from White Mountain Knives in New Hampshire. I'm going to open this up today using the Corgi flipper from Vosteed. This is 14C28N, and it's a button lock. And this is a plunge style lock, right? Not all button locks are the same, as we're going to discover today. This one is a plunge lock. All right, let's open this up. Yeah, okay. So it's another Vosteed. This one has been in a lot of attention. It is the Vosteed Naga with S35VN stonewashed blade, and this comes with various handle options. This is the copper raindrop micarta handle. We get a little warning sticker here. It says, look at the instructions before using the knife. Same thing there. Okay, got a little pouch. Vosteed pouch. Nylon. Velcro. Knife's in a little plastic bag. There we go. Okay, the first thing I'm noticing about this is the texture. So micarta can feel a lot of different ways, depending on what material was originally used. All right, so just this may be recap for some of you who are pretty familiar with micarta, but it's a resin impregnated fabric usually. It can be paper as well that is layered and impregnated with epoxy resin, and that sometimes it's done with linen or burlap or there are different types of fabric that have different textures to them that will look different and feel different. And then it can be milled in different ways. And in this case, we have a little bit of contour in these handle scales. Yeah, holding that there in the right hand. So we've got certainly a 4-finger grip. Thumb studs. Okay. Reverse flick. Yeah. Okay, and this is pretty interesting looking handle material. Yeah, you can see the layers of fabric there that are stacked up. Now, a few things to talk about. Let's start with size comparisons, right? So if you're interested in the Naga, and you want to know how it compares in size to other knives, here is a Benchmade 940. and the 945, the Osborne and the mini Osborne, and it's bigger than either one of them. How about a Rat 1 and a Rat 2? From Ontario. Closer to the Rat 1, for sure. It's got, you know, that same full 4-finger grip that we get on the Rat 1, and pretty similar reach on the blade. Okay. How about a Spyderco Paramilitary 2, PM2, and the Para 3. Definitely more in PM2 territory. And like the Spydercos, this Vosteed has a finger choil, so you can get your finger up there for more control of the blade, but I think you have a reasonable chance of getting bit if you put your finger in the finger choil of that Vosteed, whereas you're not going to experience that with the Spyderco because the edge is pretty far away from that finger choil. This one, the edge comes right up to the finger choil, and I think there's definitely a chance that you could get a little nick using it that way. I would more likely use it here. It does have jimping both here and here in the clip area. This is a clip blade profile, right? So you can do some fine work with a finger on the spine up near the tip. Okay. Wire pocket clip. Not really deep carry because of the way this handle is shaped. You're going to have some sticking out of your pocket. But it doesn't really look very knife-like, right? I mean, it's just some colorful thing. So maybe that wouldn't be as conspicuous as some other knives sticking out of your pocket. We have a flat grind. Saber height flat grind, and a swedge. Okay. This profile, this knife shape, is a descendant of a Spanish knife profile, the Navaja, right? And here's an example of another Navaja. This is from beyond EDC. Got that curved clip point. We've got a handle with this curvature in it, leading to sort of I don't know what you would call that, a horn, a protuberance. I'm going to do a video specifically on the Navaja. I have several knives that are Navaja pattern, and we'll talk a little bit about the history of that knife profile and some of its uses, some of its disadvantages, but that's another video for another day. Today we're still just looking at this Naga. So yeah, one of the things we need to point out is that it is a Navaja. Another thing we need to point out is that it uses a lock that's operated by a button, but it's not a plunge lock. This is sometimes called a top liner lock, and really what it is it's it's derived from Spyderco's compression lock, right? So if we look at a knife like that Paramilitary 2, the way this knife locks up is that when the blade opens, this part of the liner springs out, and there's a little tab on it that engages with a slot cut into the tang of the blade, and it holds it against this stop pin, and it creates very secure, very strong lockup. And unlike a traditional liner lock, right? So if you had this is the Rat. The Rat has a traditional liner lock. Same type of thing, right? The liner springs out and engages with the tang of the blade to hold the knife open. But in order to close a traditional liner lock, you have to put your thumb in the path of the closing blade to push that liner out of the way. You know, and it's not a big problem. Most people get pretty comfortable doing it and move their thumb out of the way. They're coordinated enough to move their thumb out of the way without closing the blade on their thumb. But Spyderco has eliminated that issue because you disengage this type of liner lock from the spine side of the knife, the top of the knife, and it lets the blade fall and close without having your fingers in the path of the blade. So Spyderco did it this way for a while, and then they came up with a modification on that design, which was they moved the part of the liner that comes out to the other side, but it's still on the top, right? But instead of pushing the liner itself, you instead push this button. You see inside there what's going on? This button is moving that liner lock out of the way. But the lockup is the same, right? It's still this piece of the liner pops out, has a little tab on it that engages with a little slot in the tang of the blade, and pushes it against a stop pin and holds the blade open. Okay, it's just that instead of pinching it with your index finger, now you're going to press the button with your thumb. And for a while, this knife, the Smock, was the only knife, only production knife that operated that way, right? But Spyderco's compression lock was patented, and the patent eventually expired, and so they no longer have that patent, and so other knife manufacturers are basically doing the same thing. That's what's happening here, right? This button is pushing that liner out of the way so that the blade can, so that it disengages and the blade can close. This is different than just an ordinary button lock, right? An ordinary button lock, like that Corgi, there's no liner moving around in there. The button is the lock, right? It's engaging with the tang of the blade directly and pinning it open. And it's a reasonably good lockup. There's a little wiggle here, and I would bet dollars to donuts that this would fail sooner than the top compression lock version of a knife by the same company, because you would have to overcome a lot of steel here in order for this knife to fail, whereas there's less here. I mean, you know, do I think this is a dangerous lock? No. There are lots of button lock knives that are in use and popular, and people are happy with them and don't report that they fail often or anything like that. But it also feels different to operate it. This just feels less substantial, like there's less steel-to-steel contact in there. This also has no blade play at all, whereas the Corgi is made by the same company, but it's a traditional plunge lock, has a little wiggle, a little bit of blade play. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. But this is an improvement. Now, let's talk about this company for a minute. I've got two knives here by Vosteed. Okay. The first Vosteed knife that I saw that looked interesting to me was the Thunderbird. Okay, and there were various versions of this, different handle patterns, and it's a button lock. It's a plunge style button lock, right? There's no liner involvement here. Okay. It does have a finger choil there, right? This is the Thunderbird. And in my first impressions video of this, if you go and find it in my YouTube channel, you'll see that one of the first thoughts I had was, boy, this thing is a lot like the Kizer Cormorant, right? Which also has a button lock, and it has a back flipper, and it has a front flipper, and it has a thumb hole, right? I'll show you. All right, I have a few different versions of the Kizer Cormorant. This is one of them. This one was a White Mountain Knives exclusive with a titanium handle and, is that M390 blade steel? Yeah. So this has got a hollow grind, and it's got all of those different methods of deployment, right? It's got the button, it's got the flipper, it's got the other flipper, it's got the thumb hole, right? So you can reverse flick it, and you can do all those things. It's on washers. I'm sorry, it's not on washers, it's on bearings. And I thought, I like this Thunderbird, but seems like you took a lot of inspiration from the Cormorant. Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I didn't know it as I was making that observation, but the guy who designed the Cormorant is a knife maker by the name of Yue. Y-U-E. I don't know if it's on there anywhere. I don't think so. Not on this one. But Yue went off and helped start a new company called Vosteed. So of course there are going to be some similarities. It's coming from the same guy. The Thunderbird is not identical, right? It has a compound grind. It's got a hollow grind back here, and then it's got a flat grind at the tip. That's pretty cool. It's got more reach than the Cormorant. Right, there is a Cormorant XL. I have one of those somewhere that is more comparable in size to the Thunderbird. But yeah, I mean, they're not identical knives. But the similarities make a lot of sense when you realize it was the same guy behind both of them. Right, so this is another Vosteed plunge lock, right? This one has very little blade play, almost no blade play, even though it is just a plunge lock. It's not that, you know, top liner lock, that evolution of the Spyderco compression lock. Here's the Naga with the Thunderbird and the Corgi. Those are, I believe, 3 of the most compelling offerings from Vosteed. The Corgi is your budget option, right? That one's going to be the least expensive, and it's in 14C28N, which is perfectly decent steel. You know, easy to sharpen, fairly tough. Not going to hold an edge forever, but it's, you know, it's definitely reasonable. You can work with that. It's that's from the folks in Sweden at oh, why am I drawing? Sandvik. Sorry, sorry for my little brain hiccup there. Yeah, 14C28N on the Corgi, which is going to be your budget option. Micarta handle scales there. Got much more sort of interesting and unique micarta handle scales on the Naga, S35VN blade steel, and I think this is also S35VN. Yeah, on the Thunderbird. And then, of course, I've already talked about the differences in the locks. So I'm going to talk about this knife some more when I do that video on the Navaja. I'm going to look at several different knives, some of which are very familiar to a lot of knife people, some of which maybe you haven't seen before, but I'm going to look at lots of knives that are current production knives that have this ancient, I guess we can say ancient, right? Very old, 1600s. I mean, it's not like ancient Greece or ancient Rome or something like that, but it's a pattern, knife pattern that dates back to Spain in the 1600s. And that video will feature this knife again. And by that time I may have more to say about it. But as an unboxing video, you know, all we're going to do is first impressions and some size comparisons and, you know, point out a few things. Most notably, the way this lock works. All right, I'll be back with more to say about the Naga, and among other Navaja pattern knives, pretty soon, sometime in the next week. Thanks a lot, and subscribe to my channel if you like knives, because I'm going to keep showing you lots of knives. Thanks, bye-bye.